But I am here with my guest, Dani. Dani, I am so honored to have you here. And she's coming all the way from Sweden, and she's been putting up, has lots of patience because we've been having like some difficulty with Facebook feed, and we're hoping you guys can now see us live. And Lori, she's teaching a class. She's doing a vacation Bible school for the week, and I'm not sure if she's going to be able to pop in or not. But we're excited, Dani. Thank you so much for your patience.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tammy.
So you are welcome. And we're just recording this. So if for some reason we have some other difficulties, we'll just download it, and guys can ask your questions, and we'll respond in the comments. Does that sound good? So Facebook Live, since they switched about a month, 2 months ago, it has been a challenge every time to get on. So one of those interesting, I liked it when all you had to do is just push one little button, didn't have to create events. You have to sign in now special. There's like so many little things. But welcome everyone. We are glad you're here. And Dani, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do, all of that stuff?
Yeah, sure. So let's see. I am a travel blogger, an influencer, a speaker, a mind and body coach, and an author with an upcoming book that's loosely based on my traumatic brain injury.
But I am here with my guest, Dani.
Originally, I'm from South Dakota, but nowadays I live in Sweden, and that was because of love. Fell in love with a Swede, and now we have a 3-year-old.
Little boy, little girl?
With a little rambunctious boy.
Awesome. This morning when you were on your walk, it just looked so beautiful there, and you had a kitty that was following you.
Yeah, I have no idea whose cat that is. I've seen it randomly here and there, and I was like, oh, it has to be someone around here. But it's so friendly. It just like laid right in front of me, and it's like, meow, meow. And I'm like, okay, I guess I have to pet you now because you're saying that.
You know, I'm living on farms and living out in the country. We have cats that come in and they just kind of adopt you, or we have this one cat that shows up and will like hunt and was leaving mice on our doorstep, and I'm like going, okay, where's this kitty? Because I knew it wasn't ours because ours is indoors, you know, unless we let her out with us watching. But then I saw it was a huge black cat that just comes in occasionally and hangs out. But they are fun. So now, have you always lived in Sweden?
I've lived here for over 5 years, probably close to 6 years now.
And where did you live before?
I lived in South Dakota. So that's originally where I'm from. Well, I mean, I lived in Northern Cali for about 5 years when I was a weed farmer. So there's that as well.
So what part of Northern California?
It was near Eureka, Arcata area,
Okay.
but it was up in the mountains. That's one thing I really miss is living up in the mountains. Like you're saying that you live up in the mountains and everything. I'm like, because here in Sweden, they have more like hills. I mean, they're beautiful and everything, but it's nothing like the mountains.
Well, down there you were close to Lake Tahoe and stuff too, so not too far.
Yeah.
Which is an absolutely beautiful area if people haven't been there. So now I haven't been to Sweden ever. So you're saying it's more like rolling hills? Is it kind of more like Virginia or parts of Virginia?
Yeah, I guess it would probably be similar. When I think of Sweden and being here, there's lakes all over the place
Oh,
and
cool.
forest. So that's what I really like here. And Norway, if you want to see some beautiful mountains, that's the place to go because they have fjell, and that is where there's mountains, and then in between there's water.
So it looks beautiful from, like you said, from just photos that I've seen. I need to come over and visit. And you can come visit me. We'll trade. How's that sound?
Oh, good. Good. Sounds nice.
When you can get a chance to go and experience those kind of things, like you said, walking and stuff, it just helps to melt things away. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that here. So I guess my first question is tell us about your brain injury, how it happened and stuff, and then I'll ask you questions along that line.
My traumatic brain injury. I got that when I lived in South Dakota and I was on my way to Northern Cali. So on my way there, I had hit black ice in Wyoming and visibility was less than a mile. Um, and I just remember going, oh shit. And I kind of just blacked out. So I was like on autopilot. And what ended up happening is I clipped a vehicle. And so my small truck turned into like a sardine can being opened. And so a gash went over my head. And then I spun into 360. Then the back of my truck was hit. And I got about, I think, 4 concussions, then the traumatic brain injury. And yeah, there was so much blood coming out of me. The sheriff that had found me said that was the most blood he's ever seen, and he was going to be retiring in a couple weeks after that accident. And thankfully, my dog was okay. He survived the whole accident, everything. So I was very, very thankful for that. And then the sheriff, he had to call the helicopter to come get me. And so they transported me to Salt Lake City, Utah to get the help that I needed. And from there, I was in ICU for 10 days. I had to relearn how to walk, how to use my brain. I finally woke out of my a coma. And I just remember feeling really foggy and lost. I felt upset and frustrated because of that. But then I had this inner voice inside me saying, this is but a moment. And it made me feel good and helped me see the light at the end of my tunnel because healing through this was a process. It's been 10 years from my accident. And yeah, I think it was about 7 or 8 years in, then I finally felt as healed as I could possibly be. But those first 2 years were the worst because I didn't feel like myself. I felt like an imposter in my own body. It was good but bad. It was good because I think pretty much my ego was out of the picture. So I got to focus on the inner me, on my actual self, and that inner voice helping me go forward and things like that. But since I didn't have the ego, that's a big piece of us. And to have that away from you, you're kind of unsure of who you are in a way. So that's why it was really hard.
Right. I totally get it because I've had a bad brain injury as well. So I totally get it. And because what people, it's bleeding on the brain. It's traumatic. You forget stuff, your memory, like you said, and it's like you feel like you know you're there, but you're not there. So it's like you feel like you're outside your body, watching your body, and everything seems to be like you're just striving to live moment for moment, then hour by hour, and then day by day. And you try to function as best as you can, like you said. I mean, luckily I knew how to walk and stuff still, but yeah, yours just sounds, yeah, if anybody's ever been on black ice, I'm just like picturing, visualizing everything you're telling it. It's one of the scariest things because you have no control. When you're driving on icy roads, I'm always worried about somebody else flying in. So it's like if I even hear up here that there's going to be black ice, it's like I avoid it. Put your tire on the braille part on our US highways. That helps some, but it's like you said, it's scary.
Hmm.
And to go through that, I can't even imagine. Thankfully, your dog was okay. But I mean, something like what you're saying, I mean, I could imagine it taking longer. So that's a miracle that you were even able to come back from that. It's like that was actually quick. And I know people are probably going quick, but it's like, no, that is a miracle itself, being able to walk. How long did it take you to walk again?
It was probably a couple days after waking up that I was able to walk again. However, I couldn't walk in a dark room without falling over because my equilibrium was so off. And that took, I think, a few months at least to get, I still was off. Like my equilibrium to fully come back.
I know one of the things that I dealt with was I couldn't ride a bike. for,
Mhm.
I think, 3 years because you, like you said, your balance. You just always felt dizzy, lightheaded, like you just came off a spinning ride. I didn't dare get up on ladders more than like one step because I was so afraid. At 4 years old, I was jumping off high dives. I'd help my dad roof roofs and things like that. But after my head injury, and I'm sure, is like you have to let go. You're just like concentrating on yourself, but yet you don't want to focus on yourself because when you focus on just your pain and everything, what was that like? Well, I'll let you tell it in your words.
I couldn't do more than an hour of work a day. The sheriff actually found out where I was at and called me. And so he told me, he's like, I can't believe you're able to talk, let alone that you're still alive. And then he tells me that, hey, you almost were decapitated. First off, if I was taller, and then he's like, oh, secondly, you fractured your neck. And he's like, so you're very close to becoming paralyzed for the rest of your life. And so when I got this news, I like dropped to the chair next to me, and all I could think of was, thank you, thank you. And I felt so grateful because everything could have been so much worse. And I think that was the turning point for me to get even better, quicker, because I realized how bad it could have been. So I was really positive from getting that news. And I, when I talk about my traumatic brain injury, I don't see it as a bad thing. I needed that to slow down and stop because I wasn't going the way I needed to go. I wasn't going where I was supposed to go. And I wasn't getting it through my thick skull enough to, hey, change my plans. No, I had to get a literal hit on the head to finally listen and slow down. And I'm so thankful that that happened and everything because I realized I didn't want to be alone anymore. This man that was a really good friend of mine, I ended up being like, I actually love him. And so we got married and then moved here to Sweden. And then I realized I didn't want to be working for other people anymore. I wanted to work for myself. So that was another turning point.
So yeah, it's amazing. The first part of your story when you said about the sheriff calling, it was the other voice. It was like for me, it was an insurance agent when he called me that I realized how serious it was. Because you listen to all these doctors and nurses telling you this, but for some reason, even though you're listening, it's just like a blah, 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 blah. They're serious and they're telling you the exact same thing that the sheriff probably told you, but it's when that other person or somebody else says it, all of a sudden it hits, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I am so lucky to be alive. It's different when the insurance agent's like, you may not wake up tomorrow. You know, we looked at your medical, and I just like hit me all of a sudden. I was like, well, anything could kill me. I could die in a car wreck or something tomorrow. It's like you never know. With God, all things are possible. Just went through my mind at that moment. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna be defiant. I didn't want people to feel sorry for me, so I never really talked about it that much. But yeah, it was a struggle. How were you with it? Did you tell? I mean, yours was probably more obvious. Mine was a head injury on the back, and most people and the doctors, unless you were a doctor or a physical therapist, they thought nothing was wrong until they saw all the MRIs and stuff. I had the bleeding on the brain, but it wasn't an outwardly. It was inwardly. So how did you respond to other people around you?
I didn't have surgery or anything. I didn't have to have the drill in the head. I just had to have some stitches. And the doctor, when he did this, he didn't even shave my head because he probably didn't want to make it worse for me than it could have been. Because the scar is here. So that would have
Right.
been like a huge chunk of my hair, which have been very noticeable. So I'm actually really thankful they did that because I think that helped me as well because no one knew about what happened to me until they maybe saw how I interacted or how I was a little off. Like I kind of turned into a teenager again, and this happened when I was like 24. So turning back into a teenager is a little different. When I was with some friends, they would say jokes or something, and then they would just notice that I wasn't laughing or I just was kind of gazing off into the distance. So everyone noticed that I was kind of more of a daydreamer, I guess you could say, or dazing off, zoning out. And since I've been writing my book, I've realized that I did that because I was self-meditating. I went inwards and I was working on helping myself fix myself and all that stuff. So that's why that happened.
So yeah, it's amazing. Like you said, when I wrote my book, The Power of Art and Nature in 10 Ways That Can Improve Your Life, I wrote more. I started it with my brain injury at 22. Um,
Hmm.
it's amazing what you start to realize when you have to sit and concentrate and you see those things, and
Yeah.
you start looking back and you're like, oh my gosh, I was self-medicating. I was doing this, it's like I look back and I was like, I've used nature and art forever for therapy, even as a young kid, when you start looking back at it. And definitely when you have something like that, because that's where the healing was.
Yes, 100%. Like nature is the best place to go when you want to heal yourself. And like it seems like both of us know this very well because of our inner injuries. And just for everyone that's listening, if you're feeling down or anything, just go out in nature. It will help you so much. And like go on a little walk or have a little picnic or just be out there and sit and just contemplate or something. But being surrounded by nature helps loads.
It does. And it's like, your house, it looks like warm colors on your walls. Like me, I try to use, my husband has somebody over here to buy there are these green dishes that his were from his mom's estate. And her husband showed up and he's like looking at her place outside. He's just like, wow, and then he comes in our house, they both do, and they're like, your house is so welcoming. It just makes me want to relax. But that's how I want my home to be. I want people to fall in love with just being able to be themselves, to relax, because that's what I need. I didn't, selfishly in ways, I did it for myself as well. Even though I was trying to help others too when they come here. I want people to feel relaxed. And so it's like when you have your home, it's like you need to decorate in colors and things that bring out the nature. And that was the first thing he said. He's like, it's almost like you brought nature inside. I'm like, well, that was my goal, is I want, because like you said, it's healing. Just because somebody looks normal on the outside doesn't mean they have everything put together or everything is going great or they're feeling great. Because it's like you were probably in so much pain too. I know I have headaches to this day from my injury when I was 22. So I don't do, and I have still pinched nerves and nerve damage. People need to realize, it's like we don't want people feeling sorry for us, but if we don't do something, don't make fun, or just offer to lend a hand, right?
That's so true. And I mean, there are people that you don't know their backstory. I've just realized now that I did my first hike after my accident, like in that first year. I don't know why. For some reason, I told myself that I'm going to do this. And the hike I chose was Yosemite Falls, a strenuous hike. It's not like I just had a brain injury. So I ended up doing that hike and I think it's because I had to prove to myself that I wasn't damaged. Like I can do this. I know I can. It just means I have to go slower. So it took me about twice as long as it would the average person. And I did it with my husband and my dog. And I told those two, I was like, go ahead of me because I know I'm going to take a while. So they went ahead of me. And of course, I took a while with crying and having to stop regularly because of the thumping in my head and just having that back voice in my head going, "Oh, you shouldn't do this. You can't do this. Oh, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Shush, you." And I kept pushing. And of course, there were times that I wanted to give up, but it was like I was still going for it. And what really, really helped me was I had a mantra, slow and steady wins the race.
I
And
love
on
it.
top of that, yeah, and on top of that, the people that were coming down, they could see that I was struggling. And of course, they didn't know my story. but they always, like, every person that came down, they're like, oh, you're doing great. Oh, you're just almost there. Oh, you got this. Like, just saying all these things to help motivate me and push me forward. And I'm like, I'm so thankful for that because that view was amazing. I mean, it's already a beautiful view,
Oh
but
yeah.
like having to overcome what I had to get there just made it the best.
You're rewarded in the end by, like you said, the beauty and the fact that you made it. So,
Exactly.
and that there is encouraging to everyone else out there to realize how wonderful it is to encourage somebody. To always take the time to inspire somebody else or encourage. Or if you don't know this story, ask. They'll tell you if they want to tell you. If they don't, they'll keep it short. It was like I felt like the stigma. I can't tell anybody because if I tell anybody, they won't want to hire me as an artist or this. And I was a young mom because I had a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old at that time when I was first diagnosed. And they used me as a study cases and stuff, for years. And then I ended up going on, losing all my lifetime of medical because of not making a doctor's appointment because of an ice storm. But that was a blessing because I learned natural ways, more natural, and I'm still here. And the natural ways didn't make me sick. It's like using organic and herbs and your vitamins and going on nature walks and using this as therapy. And you're like me, Dani. We want to share it with the world. We want to share it. There is hope. It's like you can get through this. You can heal from these things. Maybe not 100% perfectly, but in a different way.
The life experience you get from all these struggles you go through, that is it, you're supposed to learn from it and grow from it. Like, we as people need to learn how to look at the bad things in our life and see the good in it because there's always good in every situation. I completely back that up because I've been through a lot of situations, more so than just my traumatic brain injury. Some other issues like with the family and things that, really break people's heart. I gained a knowledge and grew from it, realizing that my sister was the one that was hurt and she was kind of just bringing it out on me, and it turned into a huge thing, but all I could see was that she was the one that was hurt at that time. Made me realize that yes, I'm not going to have her in my life because of the toxicity, but I can see her from afar and root for her still, even though of all the things that have happened. I'm still rooting for her and I still have love for her and everything. And that is for every person in every situation. Like, um, women that maybe have been in abusive relationships and all those things. Yes, it's really horrible. I completely understand that. But when you overcome those things, you realize how powerful you are and how much that you needed to learn.
But it's an obstacle for us to overcome and to learn from, a challenge. And you pray you learn the first time so you don't have to go through it 2 or 3 times. Um, Realize that if somebody's there being very positive, helping you to get out of those situations, to listen to them. There was probably something that we didn't learn the first time. That's why I hire coaches. I realized that I like to learn from others' mistakes so I don't have to make those same mistakes. But it's like, but never ask somebody a question or how to do something that's never done what you're asking. And that's one of the valuable things because a lot of times we'll pick the wrong people to listen to that have say, example, you want to hire a website designer. You don't go and hire somebody that's never created a website or even worked on a website to design your website, right? You wouldn't go and hire somebody if you're dealing with brain injuries and stuff. Don't hire somebody that's never experienced any kind of sickness, illness, or pain. They might have great empathy for you, but if they haven't been there, they're not going to know what you've experienced or not experienced. What do you think?
No, I completely agree with that. Like, I think it's better to hire someone with experience over anything else. Like, I mean, there may be people out there that have certificates, and that's great. However, I value experience over the certificate or the degree because those are the people that have been in my shoes and then overcame it, and then they show me where they are at. I have a couple mentors right now as well. And the reason that I chose these people to become my mentors is because I saw or I read about where they started and now where they are. So that progression and everything and all those obstacles they went through, I could relate. And having someone to relate with makes it so much easier to have someone that you're going to listen to and want to follow.
Yes, definitely. I totally agree with that. It's kind of like if you're taking a cooking class, you'd want to take it from somebody who knows how to cook, or you know, or from a
Yeah.
chef, you know, or somebody that's just experienced and has cooked all their lives, you know, and not somebody that's never cooked a thing in their lives, you know, or uses just prepackaged mixes. You know, it's like whenever you want to learn something, take it from somebody that's actually experienced, not just have a certificate and done only one class or two. It's better if they've, like you said, the experience means a lot. And I don't think people realize is experience is what it's about. And that's what, like you and I offer, even, and I can't wait for your book to come out. You're going to have to come back and so we can really promote your book. Because I have a feeling you're going to be talking about experiences. Is like when I was writing my book, you know, I talked a little about what I was going through, but it was like, you know, going through these experiences and everything I have, I learned about my style. I learned so much more about myself, and every day is a learning tool. You know, every day I'm learning something new, and if we're not learning, then we're dying. Um, you know, to me, we should always be learning something.
hmm Yeah, 100%. Like I am studying the mindset right now as well. And it's Bob Proctor, and he says in that studying that I'm doing that you should always be studying, no matter what. He's like, once
Yes.
you are done with this program, you should keep studying. And he, so I'm reading The Science of Getting Rich right now, and it's like I read a chapter for 2 weeks. So the same chapter over and over for 2 weeks. And he has suggested that because it helps it get ingrained into your mind and you're able to accept it more and more the more you read it. With that book, I think for like 60 plus years or something, just with him, and it just looked like in tatters, but it's like you would read it just randomly throughout the day. And besides that, he'd be studying something else. It's like, oh, that's crazy.
He was an amazing coach and author and stuff. And actually, he was friends with my one of my coaches that helped with my book as well,
Oh,
Raymond Aaron, John Asroff, Robin Banks, you know, came in because I mean, I have a lot of coaches and mentors in my life. So, because I choose the best and hire coaches for different fields. Coaches are more for encouraging and inspiring, and your mentors are going to do more talking and listening and give you more ideas. I mean, they both have different functions. Or else at least put positive people in your life, right? Who are always
yeah.
encouraging, you know, dentist appointment when you're going into stores, I see people, you can just tell they're going through so much stuff. This lady in front of me, excuse me, yesterday, her and her family, 4 kids, and you could just tell that they just go enjoy your family, have fun. I was glad to bless her and brighten her day, because you could just tell they had been going through so much. One of my great nephews, you know, had to have major surgery last week, and I appreciate all the prayer requests that were sent out for him. You know, just watching my niece having to go through this with her little baby that's 6 weeks old, you know, and luckily he's doing okay, and stuff. And of course, we're still saying prayers for him. But you know, every day is a challenge for different people. And if we can encourage her and inspire them in a way, I mean, that's what our goal is.
Mm, yeah, definitely. And it could be just the simplest thing as like just giving them a hug, or it could just be giving them a smile, or just saying thank you, or you don't have to do like crazy things to help
No,
some stranger. It's just these littlest things that you could do that could brighten their day.
just being kind. That was the message that was going through my mind all day. I found out a young girl that I had mentored actually died in a car accident on Friday. And the last time I'd seen her was at the grocery store. We were talking about, she was asking me some questions. Once you're a mentor for somebody, you're always a mentor. Always take time to be kind. Last time I had seen her with her two little boys, I took the time, I stopped, I said hi, gave her a hug, and talked with her for only a few minutes. We never know what somebody's going through, or if it's our last day or their last day. So it's like, oh, like you said, always take time to be kind, because we don't know what you're going through. It's like you said, with your car accident, your head injuries. There's a lot of people, soldiers, people that have been car wrecks, motorcycle wrecks, whatever. Mine was a slip on concrete floor. And what people don't realize is it's all where you fall, how you're hit. You don't know what it's going to lead to. A lot of times you could hit your head 10 times and not have anything, but the other times you do. We don't, and then there's people that have cancer or MS or all these different other things that are going on in their lives. We have no idea what's going on in somebody's life. So always take time to be kind. And if we can encourage or inspire just by a kind word or a smile, sometimes the simplest thing is all somebody wants is somebody to smile at them would make their day. And you know what? If they don't even appreciate that, don't worry about it. It's like in our area, we all wave. Everybody waves. And if somebody doesn't wave back, we're like, well, they're apparently not from here. And it's because everybody, I've lived in our area for 29 years now, everybody waves, except for the new people that move into the area. But they don't realize it's a friendly response. I don't know. Do you guys wave over in Sweden?
Oh, here in Sweden, it's way different than in the US what I'm used to, because I'm used to waving and smiling. Here in Sweden, like in Stockholm, if you wave and smile, they think that you're probably drunk or something's wrong with you mentally. So they might start running the other way or avoiding
That's
you.
funny.
But here in the small town where I live, it's if you know somebody, it's really common for you to wave and smile, and you can smile at strangers here because it's a smaller town. So they're more used to it, I guess. But yeah, at the big city, Stockholm, nope.
Well, some of our big cities are the same way. So
Yeah.
I understand. Hey, we set new president, right? So, any other things that you would like to share with us? The time's going by fast. So,
Yeah. Let's see. My book is going to be coming out at the end of August, and it's in a first person, and I have it written so that the reader gets to experience it as if they're in it. So
awesome.
I might be a little harsh at times, but hey, I wanted them to experience through words how it is kind of be to deal with traumatic brain injury in my mind. Because I mean, like you said, the traumatic brain injury or a brain injury or kind of any injury with the head can be depending on where it's hit. So yeah, I know a couple people that have had some kind of injury to their head, and it sounds like it was completely different than how it has been for me. And like with the doctors, they still don't really know what to expect when it comes to a head injury because of where it can hit the head, and everyone's brain is so different.
I've had people tell me, "Oh, you don't have headaches from your brain injury or tumors." It's like, well, tell me what? I can't have a headache. I've had a headache every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week since I was 22, since this fall. I never had them before. But yet you're telling me I don't have one. It's amazing. Don't go and tell people they don't have pain when you don't know. It's like just because the internet might say something, like you said, every injury is different. Every brain is different. Every person is different. So you can't just go by one person's things. That was interesting. But I have another question that just popped in my head. How did you start calling yourself Misfit Wonders? Is that correct?
Yes, Misfit Wanders. So I named my travel blog Misfit Wanders because I've always been a misfit. Like when I was growing up in the US, I would go on a lot of road trips because I have family all over the state. So I really had that travel bug already at a young age. And then as I got older and the first time I traveled out of the country, I fell in love with world traveling. And the things I do in my life are definitely not the conventional way. Like, I mean, as I told you, I was a weed farmer for 5 years. I am a travel blogger now, an influencer and speaker. All the things I'm doing are just not the conventional ways of having a job or to have a life, I guess.
They're conventional to me because I do the same stuff. My parents and grandparents had ranches and farms, and I grew up working in the wheat fields and potato fields and stuff. My grandparents' places were on the Oregon, Northern California border. So I totally get it. So it's amazing how we can go from one thing to another thing to another. It's like 1 minute I'm a fashion stylist, I would be modeling. The next minute I could be out working in a garden or backpacking. It's like, I like being able to do a variety thing. Who says you have to fit in this little box and only do what people tell you to do? It's like when I graduated from high school, I had 18 things I wanted to do. And I've pretty much done or been offered every single one of them. Which is amazing. I'm not the one that's like, hey, I'm going to grow up and be this. No, that wasn't me. It makes life more interesting, right?
Yes, definitely. I think it's really good to experience more than just one path.
Misfit Wonders. I'm like, that is a very catchy name. I love it. And I welcome all of our audience. Make sure you go and follow Dani on Instagram or you're on TikTok too, right?
Yep.
Yep, and Facebook. You're on everything, I believe, just like I am. So make sure you follow Dani there, and we can't wait for her book to come out. So I'm excited for you.
Yeah, thank you.
I can't wait because I want to read it. Anything else that you would like to share?
I can leave with a tip, and that's to stay positive no matter what. Any situation or like problems you go through in life, just try to see the good stuff. Work on seeing the good stuff. And if you can, have someone out there that you can rely on, that you can have a little bit of support.
So I love it. Great advice. So everybody stay with positive people. Be inspired, be encouraged. Follow those on Facebook and Instagram who are positive people. Get away from the news media, anything negative, especially if you're going through a lot of hard things, because that'll just bring you down. But connect with people like Dani here, or of course follow us here on Power of Art and Nature, or go to our Facebook page, Unlocking Freedom in Nature. But we are excited that you took the time to be here. Thank you so much, Dani. I appreciate you. Of course, we want to have you back so you can promote your book when you have it published here, and we will help you do that. So thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a great week.